zone. Hello. So I normally say good morning, good evening, but it's sort of good evening, good morning, good afternoon today, considering it is currently nighttime in LA. How's everyone doing? We good? What a crazy week it's been. It's insane what has happened over the last week or so. It's nuts. Super happy to be here. This is going to be more chill. First and foremost, to anyone that is on the other side of the world, or even on the other side of the United States, if it is your 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and you do have something to do, go to bed. It's okay. The PA is going to survive without you listening tonight, so it's okay. You can go to bed, sleep, you can recap tomorrow. Today's spaces will not be recorded. However, controversial, controversial, very controversial. Um, so I am recovering from a little bit of an illness. I'm feeling pretty good now. I think my voice is a little bit strange, but that's okay. It normally is pretty strange. So here we are. We're doing the things. So bear with, first of all, my voice. Second of all, the fact that it's late. Third of all, the fact that there's no squeaky floorboards because this hotel has tiles, would you imagine? Um, and a little bit of late night alpha. A little bit of late night alpha. So, okay, first of all, as always, let me write a tweet about the space. Bum, ba-da-da. All right, join in. NFT discussions. Give me a second, as always. NFT LA Reef. Alright, Beavis, Alpha, and okay. Retweet, like, and tag below. Alright, okay. Here we go. Let me proofread as always. I don't even care if there's spelling mistakes in this one. Let's send it. Full send, tweeted, done, finished. Okay, if everyone could jump on that, please, and give it a like, give it a retweet, do all the things, tag your friends. You know the drill. I don't need to tell you guys. If I go into any weird muting periods, it's because I'm coughing. So just get used to that. Okay, shall we get started? I think we should. I think we should. Um, okay. First and foremost, today will be like a little bit more low energy simply because I've been in bed for 3 or 4 days. But let's talk specifically about our events. That was crazy time meeting everyone. Um, it was incredible. Like I can't really sum it up into words appropriately, to be honest. Um, I met so many people. I think, okay, let's recap. Let's take a step back. It is, it is strange creating something and having so many people a part of it. However, never sort of putting a face to a name. I think that's what it sort of comes down to. You've created this thing and you see these usernames and you see these people and they're telling their stories and you have an understanding of who they are in that capacity. However, you have a lack of an understanding of a capacity which is more sort of human, like human interaction. Being able to stand there and see all these people and see all these faces is something that you just, I don't know, it's very hard to comprehend, to be honest. Um, it's an incredible feeling to meet so many people and to hear so many people's stories and to understand where they came from, where their background was or is, how they got into the project, why they're here, and potentially for some people, how they got into the into the venue. Obviously, you guys could submit multiple registrations and bring in friends. Can I also say that one observation being that is, from what I have seen, the event that had, I think, the most women there that I've ever seen at an NFT event. You know, and that was really fantastic to see. And I said that to a few people, simply because a lot of NFT events that I've seen in the past and seen footage of, there's a degree of which it is incredibly male dominated, and that's something that we see. When it's these sort of industries, like that's just something we see, right? But for our event, our LA pop up drinks event, there was so many women in the room. There were so many women in the room, and that was awesome to see. So I just want to shout that out. So all the ladies that came and attended and were there with us, having drinks and doing all the things, like, that's great. Like, I'm really happy about that. Really, really happy about that. Didn't want it to just be a dude party. All these dudes hanging around. So that's awesome. The biggest takeaway from that event there was, I think, a level of participation. Um, we obviously had inbuilt game theory into that event, and we did that for a specific reason. Um, you know, we needed to create a way to incite demand to our first event. During NFTLA, there were so many events, and all these people had all these openings, and all of them have free bars, open bars and free drinks and whatever, and you can go do whatever you want. But why are they going to come to our event? And this is something I just want to talk on, which I think may help other collections or other people in future, especially when we have these NFT weeks, and you have one event on or one evening. There has to be a reason. There has to be a reason for them to turn up. It's got to be interactive. It's got to be exciting. So part of the strategy the whole time, and I'll always be open with what we do, part of the strategy the whole time was to, at the last minute, integrate some game theory to it. That is that is NFT related. We laser engraved all of those lanyards in the last minute, within a day of the event happening. We built out the Morse code that had all the phrases, and then we built out the URL that was hidden in the Morse code. And then obviously that led to something, it led to something else. And, that was an experience. And you might laugh at the fact that, why are you implementing that level of interactive theory into a event which is supposed to be purely for drinks and fun? And the reason is that it actually is a fantastic icebreaker. Who wants to turn up to a party if they don't know someone, or don't know a lot of people? And, they're a bit nervous, and they, don't really know how to sort of get themselves involved. And that is, for a lot of people, a reason why you don't turn up to parties. So, the fact that we had, tens and tens of people crowded around tables trying to figure out Morse code, to figure out this thing, and then figure out the password, and then pick a door, and all the talk around, oh, you're going to pick number one, you're going to pick number two, or number three. Like, this is the reason why, we had such a great evening that night. Um, these people were able to come, they were able to turn up early, they were able to hang out, they were able to actively participate together in some sort of puzzle or game. You know, if you didn't know someone at that party, or, you know, you turned up with you and a friend and you didn't know anyone else, how quickly are you going to make, you know, a group of friends with that activity? Like, you are. You really are. Um, so, so that's a great thing. And meeting everyone is an incredible experience. It's eye opening. It's, you know, obviously it's, from my perspective, it's also a bit full on. You know, you have to really have to be there. It's not something that's super easy, especially for me, like the first time going through that. So I think we all went through something together there, which was beneficial. So that was great, and I couldn't be happier with the outcome, especially something that we planned in about 10 days. In terms of the Wisdom event, that was incredible. Anyone who turned up to that event probably loved the way that was done. We had some incredible projections, which was sick. I think everyone enjoyed it a lot. Having Timmy Trumpet there, hanging out with us, drinking, chatting. It's, you know, we're all just normal people, right? And that was the purpose. So everyone who I saw there as well, you know, it was great to see you again. And the Steve Aoki performance was pretty good. So that obviously was great. So in terms of the events and what we're doing moving forward in New York this week, we have finally secured and put down that deposit on our event space in New York. Sorry, we're going to be there for, I believe it's 5 full days. So we're going to have a space for 5 full days in New York. And I know I've said this before, I'm just confirming this is exactly, here we come. Um, we're going to have a really large space for 5 full days. And we're going to create an experience which is going to involve a lot of custom fabrication, a lot of thinking about what we are actually trying to push people on. Each day is going to have a theme. So each day, you know, it might be an educational day. It might be a day for creation. It might be a day for communication in terms of networking and understanding who each other is and are in this space in Web3. It is going to be like our own mini conference. That's the way I would put it. And the reason why we're doing that is because I don't know about everyone else, but this the NFTLA conference, and this is a hot take, okay, and I'm I'm recovering, so bear with me. NFTLA, I think there's going to be a lot of events, companies, a lot of organizations which are going to dive really headfirst into doing these NFT events. Some of them are going to be managed better than others, but I think a lot of the time, the challenge is that you, as a collection, can essentially, in some degree, put on a better experience for your holders than a conference itself. Sorry. So I think the challenge with any other conference or any other sort of event, week, or space is that all these collections are going to want to put on events and they're going to want to impress. So I think the conference itself is going to have, by virtue of the space that we're in, competition from all the other collections. And from NFTLA, you know, there were parts of it that were good, and there were parts of it that weren't so fantastic. Um, you know, the speaking panels that I went to, a lot of them, they were too short. You know, they weren't given enough time to really have a discussion. A lot of them, you know, it was really just a bit of a pitch fest. They were going on there and they were pitching something, because they didn't have a lot of time to discuss anything else. So it was just a, hey, this is what I'm doing and so I'm working on, answer one question and answer one question and that's it. So I think we're going to learn quite quickly that the collections are probably going to dominate these weeks. And realistically, these collections are probably going to do better. So I think that's something we've got to watch and something that we've got to consider. Did I buy VIP tickets to NFTLA? Yes, I did. Did I spend, I think it was $4,000 a piece on them? I did. Have I done the exact same for NFT NYC? I have. Will I be attending as much as I thought I initially would? Potentially not. Potentially not. Um, so that's just something that's interesting to keep in mind. In terms of PA's involvement with the ecosystem, I think we're seeing a bit of a shift in some storytelling. And we're definitely not the first to do interactive storytelling. And we will never be the exact first, and we definitely won't be the last. What's been really interesting to watch is how Azuki has been going so well. And I want to give complete congratulations to everyone who holds an Azuki, everyone who's part of the Azuki family. Um, I think they've done an incredible job. And it's really interesting now how they're implementing an interactive story. They've done the check your wallets, which was awesome. They've got this thing that's morphing into something else, it's morphing into something different. It's it's a way of storytelling. And we're going to watch a lot of other NFT collections storytell like that in future. And that really was our always our aim with Psychedelics Anonymous from December. We wanted to have an interactive storytelling experience. And that's something that we'll continue to lean on. So it's great to see other collections adopt a similar rationale. There's never a competition in terms of who thought of what, when, or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. But I just want to recognize that and shout that out. And for anyone who's thinking about having a collection or putting on an experience, the experiences that win are interactive. They're the ones that work because they keep people engaged, and that's what's really important. Which is what I want to lead on to in terms of the next topic of conversation, which is really, unless you're a day trader trading NFTs, I actually don't think a price pumping to where it needs to is, or something outrageous is always a positive thing. I think we need to rethink, especially as project owners, the life cycle of an NFT collection. Most collections that we have seen go from 0 to 100 really, really quickly have a very hard time coming back. And this is more of an observation over the last, you know, almost a year now. And I think especially if you're trading NFTs, I think you should really think about how this impacts your strategy. There's a very small proportion of projects that will go from 0 to 100 and then they'll go to 200. One of those projects, obviously, being again Azuki, fantastic, absolutely crushing it. But that is a very unlikely scenario for most other collections. Um, you know, I think we can all think of so many other collections that have gone from 0 to 6 or to 80th floor to 10 or whatever it is, and that have come down and corrected really hard. The issue we then have is, and as I've mentioned this before, you have then essentially this staircase that you have to climb up, that is almost impossible. And for new people looking into projects, they see that and go, I don't think that's going to work. Um, and that's actually really hard as a project owner to overcome because no matter what you guys come up with, no matter what you trying to invent, whatever partnerships you try and foresee, these are things which it is almost not impossible to overcome, but is incredibly difficult, which is why we were lucky that we had an instance where people had a couple hundred of our supply and it stopped that floor from going something ridiculous. Because if it did, I think we'd be having a very different conversation today. And I think the conversation will be with a lot less people. So that's something I really want to flag out. If you're seeing a collection going absolutely crazy in a vertical uptrend, something that's really almost too good to be true, you need to take a bet that are they going to actually pull through that? Are they going to survive it? Are they actually going to survive it? And most of the time, the answer is no. And I think the controlling factor there from an emotional standpoint is that we don't want to see something that we sell go higher. And that's when people hold on. And then the problem is that then they hold on too long, it goes down, and then they're holding almost forever because it's very hard to get past that point. The other thing I want to have a chat about quickly is obviously the Dev Fellas announcement of removing whitelists or allow lists or whatever you want to call them from their sort of continual ecosystem. Anyone who knows me knows that since December, we initiated the same exact protocol. We have turned down so many different whitelist partnerships or opportunities. And these things we have said no to again and again and again. And there is a reason why we're doing it. This space is obviously very volatile. It's incredibly emotional. Same with some of the people inside it. You know, you're watching these people have very public displays of emotions surrounding things that may be happening. And I support that a lot, especially when people are being vulnerable and they're going through something and they need support from others. However, there are also like public displays of emotional intolerance between individuals in sort of a disfriendly or unlikable manner, which I think people really need to rein in. Because your Twitter profile in this space is almost your LinkedIn profile. You know, this is your work. If you're in Web3 to do work, this is your reputation, this is your work. So I think really from an emotional standpoint, this market is obviously volatile and there's a lot of collections that are being created that have ill intentions. And I don't think we're going to see that go away. It is a very strange place to be where you are selling a product based on a plan that is by no means guaranteed, and most of the time by a person that has really no means to back up the aspect of their plan to say that they are going to deliver something. Like at the end of the day, it's just words. And then even better is that whatever that product is, you don't see it until you've purchased it. It's a very weird way of doing business or, you know, selling products. You have these consumers that are blind, they can't see the product. The only thing that's holding, you know, a collection to executing their roadmap is the collection founders. That is also very difficult. That's something that we need to factor in here. And also, you know, and some people, some commentary the last sort of week has been that, hey, but listen, there's been, you know, those two kids that, you know, got investigated by the FBI or whatever, right? And yeah, I totally understand that and I can see that and I recognize that. However, if you wanted to, if you really wanted to, you can fulfill a roadmap technically, like you could. You can fulfill a roadmap just terribly, to the point where if you had to stand in front of a judge, you said, "But Your Honor, we did that, and we did that, and we did that." Like we did it terribly, but we still did it. You know, we did what we said we were going to do. So unfortunately, bad actors in this space aren't going to go away. Um, uh, to be realistic, there's just going to be more of them as we develop as an ecosystem and as more people join, which is why we have said no to every whitelist application that has come our way, except for one, which was the World of Women Galaxy collection. That was the only one where we turned around and said, "Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. We can support you with that." And why? Because I personally know the founders behind World of Women. You know, we've had multiple interactions that have been positive. The collection's been around for quite a long time. They've executed on their roadmap. They've done good by everyone. Okay, and that's something that I'm happy to put my hand to and go, yep, I'll stand behind you. Like, I will do this for you. I'll try and promote this for you. I'll try and get the right people in there for you because I can trust that. So I think that's the first of many projects that care about their reputation and their authenticity that they'll actually start to reject whitelist applications, or allow list partnerships or whatever you want to call it. Which is curious because it's also going to start killing the allow list or whitelist meta, which people really call it. You know, I'll do an allow list partnership for you if you do one for me, and so on, vice versa. Um, and for a lot of projects that are new, that's something that drives their marketing. Like, what are projects doing for marketing outside of saying we're giving away allow list partnerships here and allow list partnerships there? Someone needs to come in and think of something different. Someone needs to. There is an opportunity for someone who is potentially listening to this to come in here and figure out a new way of marketing a project from start to finish. Um, Someone in here is going to do it, right? Someone's going to think of it, and that's going to be incredibly successful for another about 3 months, and then it's going to be on to the next one. That's how marketing works. Okay, that's how everything works in a marketing sense. It has a timeline. You do it, it works incredibly, and then it starts to trail off as everyone else starts to figure it out as well. And what I would try and stress project owners to do is try and think of something different. Do something different. You know, we're in a space where we want to evolve and we want to innovate and we want to create. That doesn't mean do the same thing as everyone else, especially from a marketing perspective. So I think that's really interesting, and I think we're going to see a lot of projects that are going to implement that sort of policy. I would say, from a dev fellas perspective, some interesting. I wouldn't really call this alpha, but I call it something interesting that we can think about, which is there was, I think there was, you know, to a degree, a big proportion of the crypto markets to date is held up by a lot of institutional investment. As we see more companies that are large, that have big balance sheets, look into uh, crypto and hold crypto, which also steadies the price a little bit because it's not as emotional. I am personally being involved in more conversations around institutional adoption of NFTs as a portfolio item. And I know that's not new. Okay, like I'm not saying this is a brand new thing. However, I'm starting to get roped into conversations about this. Um, I'm starting to hear that these sort of investment firms are starting to think about taking positions in NFT projects and holding it for a longer period of time, which also means that there may be more likelihood of price stability coming towards some NFT collections in future, especially because their success is really predicated based on the supply. It's not like a market where there's a direct pool of liquidity like crypto. You know, if you want to sell your crypto, you can sell it instantly to an exchange as there's liquidity that's being provided to you. NFTs don't have that luxury. That's not how they work. You need a buyer if you have a seller. And if there's an oversupply of sellers, your price does truly hit the floor unless there is enough buyers. That's why we see so much volatile price action when it comes to NFTs. So, this institutional adoption or institutional involvement in NFTs is going to come. It's going to happen. There's a few things that I have said over the last 3 to 4 months, which I've called happening. I'm not always right. I don't plan to be someone who's right, but I'm starting to have a few micro wins, like this dead fellas thing, as an example. I saw that happening. That's why we took that stance in December. Their reputation is more important to them than some, allow list or whitelist opportunity for marketing. So as we see these institutional investors get involved in NFTs, you'll actually start to see the relationships of the NFT collection owners with these institutional individuals become more of a strong thing or more of an influencing factor. Um, I've had a few conversations and I've been pulled into some conversations with some of these institutions, and they've been asking us some pretty pointed questions around what we're doing and how we're handling specific things. And that for us is, I think it legitimizes, first of all, what we're doing, but also the space that we're in. There's one other symbolism of the last week that I think is important. There are some collections which are going to exist that they're not going to have a true physical presence. They're just going to be digital. They're just going to be metaverse. They're just going to be that collection that has a digital aspect purely from a game perspective, from a networking perspective, from a lifestyle perspective. We are seeing Psychedelics Anonymous users and members group up and have events themselves. We don't plan them. These members plan them themselves. They hang out, they have a good time, they go for a few drinks or whatever it is. That level of community is going to be something that's going to take a lot of collections forward and push them further than others. That level of sort of interaction and also independence. It's independent of us. It's independent of the project owner or the organization behind the project. I'd like to know how many unofficial meetups or drinks or networking events other collections have had within the last 3 months that have been completely irrelevant to the collection itself. Not many is the answer, unless they're incredibly private events with people that believe that, superior in the space, like a superior networking evening. These independent interactions with people are going to be something that we're going to see more of. It's going to be something that's going to determine the strength of the community and the size of the community, especially. And I also think it's going to push a newfound relevance of in person entertainment and in person interaction. I love the idea of the metaverse. I love the idea of having people be able to connect with each other, with no geographical bounds in terms of boundary or sort of challenge, and no challenge based on race, culture, what you look like, how you are, if you're disabled, if you're not able to walk. A metaverse allows us all to interact without all these certain factors and biases coming into play. Unless it's obviously a language barrier in some respects. And that is going to be the way that this world is going to work. That is how we will progress. Humans by nature are lazy people. That's why Tinder worked. That's why Bumble works. We would rather sit home and interact with others from an app perspective than go out to a bar and try and meet people and meet new friends, which is why a metaverse will exist. And it's why a metaverse will continue to exist, because, we are lazy creatures by definition. So that is fantastic. However, the bonds and the relationships that we form in person, especially at events like the ones we had this week, and especially at the ones that have been happening from a community perspective over the last 2 months, are the bonds that people will actually make for a greater period of time. I shook 400 people's over the last couple of, like, over this week, maybe 400 people, 450 people in person. We all had conversations. All of our conversations were different, but I will remember those interactions and those conversations more than I remember specific Twitter interactions or specific, digital interactions. I will remember them because I'm standing in front of someone and I'm looking them in their eye and I'm listening to who they are and I'm listening to their story and I'm listening to what drives them forward. I'm listening to why they're here. And that's something that we can't push away too much. And I don't want to push that away. I think the metaverse is great. I think Web3 is fantastic. And the reason why Web3, the reason why these events happen this week is because Web3 exists. Web3 did that. It brought us all together. All the most random people on the planet coming together in different walks of life and being able to spend time together. So I'd like to see a lot of these collections put more of an emphasis on in real life events and in real life interactions, especially as we as a culture and we as a species move towards a more digital way of life. Because at the end of the day, sitting next to someone and talking to them and looking them in the eye and feeling their emotion and feeling their body language is something that we can't replace. It's not something that we can replace. So I think that's really important to look for. So that's something really important to look for. So I'd be also wary of that. Some collections probably won't go as hard on events, and I can understand that, but I would take notice of the ones that do. Okay, what else should we talk about? I don't know. I think really the only other thing to talk about tonight would probably be some timeline updates. In terms of timeline, one more thing. Ecosystem for us really relates to the PA versus a whole and how we categorize events, sequences, experiences, physical and from a digital standpoint as well. One thing that we have realized is that it may be harder for some to get into the PA verse or the PA ecosystem than others realize. Based around the game theory that exists, based around the storytelling that's already been done. In order to work through this with other people, we need to understand what they need to know at the front end so they can come in and they can join us. So we're going to be have an internal workshop around what we believe is the most crucial information that someone might need to know if they want to join Psychedelics Anonymous for the full experience. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to have a resource that every single one of you could push or pull someone to understand what Psychedelics Anonymous is, how to get started, what all the pieces mean, what do the components mean, what's coming up, and what's already been done. Because I think sometimes that is a small barrier to entry in terms of the PA ecosystem, and I think that's something we need. um, you know, I wouldn't change the way we've done things at all, because it's the reason why we're here, and I love it, and we'll continue to do it. However, I do think we need something to help bring others in, that might look at the ecosystem and seem like it might be a little bit intimidating almost. One other thing that I've thought about was, sorry, just reading Discord. One other thing I've thought about was, and it came through my mind, was some sort of alert system, some sort of notification system, some sort of way that we can help notify people when they need to do things. Now, I understand emails. I understand emails are a dangerous game, especially with phishing links and things like that. So I'm not sure if that's the right solution for us. But I'm thinking about some other way that we can keep people involved and engaged. Which we can sort of grab their attention rather than them having to look. So that's just one thing we're thinking about. Okay, C3. C3. Oz Post. That's completely unrelated. Okay, so let's talk about some timelines. Hold on, let me have some water. Hold on. Okay, so today is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday. In the US, of course, it's Wednesday in Australia. It's my Australian friends and family. We will have a concrete date for component number 3 and when that will be beginning by the end of this week. There will be a date, it will be set. Everyone who knows us knows that once we set a date, we don't change the date. Okay? So we're going to be setting a C3 date this week, and it's not going to be too far away, and that process will begin. To remind everyone, to get component 3, you must have a Genesis, a Psychedelics Anonymous printing press, and a Metaverse Pass. That is the set for component number 3. Okay, those are those 3 things that you'll need to activate the printing press. So if you haven't got a Metaverse Pass, a printing press, and a Genesis, then I would go shopping for one now. Next thing, we will be setting a date for the In Real Life merch claim this week as well. There will be a date, it will be set, there will be a 7-day window. I think we might extend it to 14 days, but to be realistic, we actually want to get these orders in sooner rather than later so we can get this stuff out to you. But we will set that date. We'll have the claim. It'll probably be for 7 days. It might be for a little bit less, might be for a little bit longer. But you guys will be able to come in and claim that. And that means that you'll be able to get your merch, and we'll get that to you pretty quickly. In terms of the merch design, this is something that I do want to touch on. We want to do things a little bit differently with merch. We want to make sure that, you know, it's interesting, it's captivating, it's something that's, psychedelics, it's something that's psychedelic. We also want to make it relevant to the collection. So for the In Real Life merchandise, obviously we're having things that are for free. We're obviously paying for that. We're paying for everyone's In Real Life merch. That's part of what we said we'll do, and that's what we're doing. But we're trying to make sure the design is a little bit interesting. It's a little bit different. And it implements what Psychedelics Anonymous is into it. We didn't want to just do a logo. A lot of people have sent us examples of merchandise that has, a logo here, a logo there. We didn't really want to do that. We wanted to do something a little bit different. I'm sure some people are going to like it. I'm sure some people are going to hate it. And that's totally fine. That's what merchandise is. That is what subjective creative sort of intrigue is. So I'm looking forward to that. So we'll set a date on that as well. The next thing that I want to say before I go is that with component number 3, I know there's been some time between component number 3 and also some time, obviously, between component number 2 and component number 3. The time between psilocybin and component number 3 is going to be drastically shorter. And that will be our big first burn event. That's when we're going to start burning. That's when people are going to start making harder decisions, essentially. So the time frame between psilocybin and C3 is going to be shorter. The other thing I want to chat about is divine entities and what that means. We said that divine entities was going to be a collection. It's going to be an artwork collection. It's going to be something that's new. It's not going to be a static piece of art. It's going to be generative. One thing that a lot of people have sort of a weird notion with is that these second collections within the ecosystem, for a lot of people and for a lot of collections, are almost like the sidekick or the pet or the second. Not as good as the first, but it's the second one. We are not taking that approach. The Genesis PFP collection for Psychedelics Anonymous was, a great piece of art, and it's something that we'll always stand by. And it's the piece that will have all the amount of utility and all the total utility that the Psychedelics Anonymous ecosystem offers. It'll be the most utilitarian piece of or NFT really that we offer as a whole, and it will always have that. However, DE is going to be different. It's going to be more aesthetic. It's going to have way more resources that are going to go into it. It's going to be something that's going to look entirely different. It'll make sense as to why it's different later on, but it's something that we're going to make better. I love the Genesis artwork. I do. I love it. But it's time for us to make something bigger. It's time for us to make something better, and something for us to expand an ecosystem with that we're really proud of. No, it's not anime, for God's sake. So that's something that I wanted to touch on. Someone's asking, do we have NFT NYC dates? We will in a couple of days. I literally just need to send an email and just triple check what our dates are for NFT NYC. But yes, I'll tweet those out at some stage soon. So, look, all in all, it's been an incredible week. I've met a lot of people. I've had a crazy time with a lot of you. I've enjoyed every second of it. I've definitely been sick for like 4 days, which has been rough, as you can hear. However, that's okay. We'll get over it. But I just want to say again, thank you to everyone who's with us, everyone who's supporting us, everyone who takes the time to like and retweet our tweets, everyone who takes the time to spend time with our members, people who are making memes. Like, this is what NFTs are about. This is what Web3 is about. And it's something that we're going to sit through and we're going to live through together. We're going to see an incredible amount of ups and incredible amount of downs in terms of this NFT space, but it's the people at the end that's standing there essentially together that are going to be the ones that are first of all happy, but second of all winning. So I'd let everyone know that if you need to take a break from NFTs, if you need time, then take the time, because no one's going anywhere. But again, thank you everyone. I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone listening. especially during my bouts of muted and unmutedness. And I would be back probably in a couple of days with the space when I'm feeling a little bit better, and we can have a chat a bit more about what's happening and what's going on. So thank you again, appreciate it. Expect some timelines and some commitment dates in terms of C3 as well as merch claim, and we'll get through those together. And psilocybin is definitely closer than you think, so don't forget about that. So I'm going to get to bed, but thank you everyone for listening. Appreciate it very much. And I'm sure I'll see a lot of you over the next week or so before I head back to the old Spider Island. So until then, I will chat to you all later.